Hi, I'm Susan Blaine, your host of Ottawa Biz TV. Let's talk business. Today's guest is Alain Jean-Baptiste, and Alain's a success coach. Welcome, Alain.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being on the show. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
What I do is success coaching. I use NLP techniques to give tools for people to enhance the way they're performing in life and business. And my specialty is helping entrepreneurs get to the next level.
I read a little bit on your website about teaching leaders and business professionals about using their intuition.
I have people connect with their inner self first.
Okay.
And then I give them a step process in which they're able to get access a little bit more to beyond their five senses so that they can access that inner voice and then listen to it and then go towards creating the success that they want instead of just doubting or thinking it's my imagination. Your logic sort of steps in sometimes and your ego at the same time. And so
that darn ego.
That's correct. The negative ego is not your friend.
No.
And so to listen to that little voice sometimes when other people are also telling you, and don't do this, don't do that. If we think of people like Steve Jobs is a great example.
Yes.
He highlighted the fact that intuition was one of the most important things to work with in business. And when people were telling him, are you crazy, don't do this, don't do that.
He didn't listen to them.
Exactly. He managed to change the whole landscape.
Yeah.
And so that was done with intuition.
So give me an example of some of the people that you've worked with and how you've helped them sort of transition into using more of their intuition in their business.
One of my clients just a couple of months ago, he had lost over about, I think it's close to 48 or $50 million.
Wow.
And so I helped him connect back to his intuition because he was really afraid of things that were going to happen and stuff like that. So he managed in a couple of months to be able to get back on track and make about, I think within a month giving back seminars, he made about $750,000.
Wow.
So what I did with him basically is just allow him to get rid of all that noise of people saying bad things about him or things not going the way he wanted, and really listening to that voice of soul. I call it the voice because when I talked to the guy, I said, listen, you have the voice. You hear it with somebody. You hear it with some people in terms of, you can hear they're going to be successful again. Or like if you take Donald Trump.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He's been up and down.
He's been up and down. He's been off by maybe $700 million. And I remember seeing him on television, and he was, still spending $4 million a month entertaining people. And
he's still, I don't know Donald Trump personally, but I actually have met him. But one thing I think is consistent with him is that he does have this sort of belief and faith in himself.
Correct, exactly. And intuition really builds confidence.
Yes.
And if you look at leadership itself, leadership by definition is someone who will lead towards a goal or an outcome. Every goal you create is always done intuitively.
Yes.
Okay, it's not really rational.
Your drive, you're driven by it.
Exactly. And so to be able to have somebody go back in that state, listen to that voice, that universal intelligence, if you will call it that way, or your inner voice, usually changes the whole landscape.
Well, you're bringing them back to the basics, to the core,
Correct.
to the fundamentals,
exactly.
Right?
Take all the fluff, take all the blah, blah, blah.
It's easy to get distracted by that.
It's very easy.
I call it the
Even
matrix.
I get distracted. Yeah, exactly.
Right? I get sucked into the matrix.
Exactly.
So what you do is you help people stay focused
Correct.
on that.
And my job with NLP or other techniques I use is to transform their belief system. So I hacked into their brain, and then I help them.
You hacked into their brain, so you're also a medium.
That's right.
When did you first learn that you were a medium?
Well, I learned it while I worked in Montreal. I started doing therapy at that time, helping people in therapy at a clinic that was in Longueuil, Quebec. I had a client come, and she started talking about, she was there. I asked her, well, what would you like to create? And she said, well, I want to know why I don't like my husband anymore. And I thought, okay. So
bet you a lot of women would like to know about that.
So I'm like, okay. So I just listened to it, and over a half an hour, 40 minutes. And at one time, I started, I think, getting into a trance. And so I started seeing a movie go over her head.
You actually see a visual.
Correct. So what happened is I saw a visual on top of her head. She was just sitting in front of me. We're pretty close. And I started seeing the operating room. And I could see the number of doctors and nurses. And I asked her, I said, I'm sorry, just, I don't want to interrupt you, but because she kept talking. And I said, was your husband present with you at the during the time you had your child in the operating room? She said, yes. Why would you ask that? I said, well, I see your husband, and I see you and the baby, and all of a sudden the baby turns dark and the husband turns dark. I said, well, do you know what that would be about? And all of a sudden she said, I remember. They gave him the baby, and he said, well, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen.
Oh.
Ouch.
Wow.
And at that
so
point,
that,
I'm
at that
like,
point,
ouch.
wow,
Okay.
that point for her was
Correct. So I saw that, and I
turning point.
thought, a very turning point.
Wow.
All of a sudden, she just came up and she said, wow, you know, how were you able to see that? I said, well, I don't know. It's just I see this movie on top of your head, and I just don't have any popcorn and stuff. I actually said
but she forgot it.
She
so
forgot
it was buried
because
in her
it was like
subconscious.
7 or 8 years. So what happened is that I was looking at her, and all of a sudden my brain started going back to a certain time, which I saw was about 7 or 8 years before. And then that movie appeared, and then I just started watching it as she kept talking.
That's very powerful.
So no, it was very life-changing due to the fact that it just came up, and it was.
Wow.
But to hear her say at that moment and remember that her husband said, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen.
Now, did she get
I just
over
think
it?
about
That's
it,
my
and
question I
yeah,
have.
she was better afterwards. I
Oh,
talked to her.
really?
And
Wow.
so, but just
That's powerful.
the awareness of it for
Yeah.
her just changed the whole course of it. So I didn't expect that at all.
happy ending.
So, yeah, a very happy ending.
Oh, good.
So.
Those are the best.
Yeah.
That gives you a bit of an edge.
Yeah.
A bit of an
It does a
advantage.
lot, yeah, it does.
Your clients probably can't get away with much in terms of
No, they don't.
fooling you or fooling themselves.
They tell me actually, like I have one client, he'll just talk, and at one point he says, you know I'm lying, don't you? I said, yeah, but I'm just waiting for you to finish.
Because you could see right
And
through
then
it.
he's like, oh, okay, well, you know, all right, so this is the truth. And then the truth is very powerful. When you tell yourself the truth,
Yes,
it's very
it
powerful.
is, it
Because
is.
most people think, you know, I'm stupid, or I won't make it, or it's hard, or all these, you know, I call it self-pity.
Yep.
And then you listen to that
Pity
little
party.
story, pity party,
Yeah.
and you forget the majestic in you, right?
Oh, I love that.
The majesty in which you
The
can
majesty.
create the true story, the grand story, if you want
And
to look
everyone
at
has
it.
majesty
Correct.
in them.
Yeah.
This is very interesting. So you actually teach people
Correct.
how to tap into their psychic ability.
Correct.
So are you saying that everyone has?
Correct.
A
If you look
psychic
at
ability?
leadership itself, and you read a lot of books on leadership, it'll talk about the psyche. Not
Yeah,
just
that's
psychic,
true.
but it
That's
comes
true.
from the psyche, right?
Yeah,
So the
for
psyche
sure.
is what enables you, again, to intuitively make the choices and decisions.
Yeah.
Okay?
No, we don't think about that, right?
Well,
we're
'cause we
we're
don't
not
really
thinking about
know.
the process.
Correct.
We're just reacting.
Correct. So what I did is I said that, you know, there's about 12 senses. So, and there are studies out there that are saying that, you know, there's about 17 or even up to 75 senses, which most people don't know because they won't be called that way. And then I give a process in which, like I said, the sense of voice is one I use with leaders. The sense of movement also, to know the flow of how a business will do or not.
So how long would you typically work with a client and what is kind of the process that you take somebody through?
If they're going to do just the training, it takes about 6 hours to develop
This
those
training?
abilities. Yeah, it takes
Or-
about 6 hours.
Okay.
But with a client, it all depends. I usually do them custom, so I'd say about a minimum of 10 to 30 hours.
So is that the core focus of what you
The core
coach?
focus I would do, is
Yeah.
mostly self-leadership and using intuition as the major tool for it.
Well, fascinating. And where can we learn more about you and the work that you're doing?
Sure, you can go to my website, alainjeanbaptiste.com, or just do a search for Alain Jean Baptiste, and you'll be able to find me on the internet or on Facebook and YouTube and all that stuff. I'm
So what's
pretty much
next?
everywhere.
What are your plans?
Next is we're building a new leadership course that'll be focused more on even getting deeper inside developing your intuition for higher level management and top. I usually coach executives or presidents of companies and owners of companies. Okay. Now we're going to do it so that it's also enables, you know, anybody that wants to be a leader, because even leadership in terms of definition, people think of CEOs and things like that, but parents are leaders.
Parents are leaders. Well,
Yeah.
even people, if you're part of a team, you're usually leading with some specific responsibilities, right?
Yeah.
So we're all leaders in a sense.
Exactly.
We're leaders in our community, in our families,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
In our companies.
So it's just to recognize it and to make it broader so that people, You know, you're seeing it more and more, especially with social media. There's so many things people can do now.
Oh my
that
goodness,
you can
yeah.
do now. Just getting more tools. The most important thing I'd like to bring to everybody is
Yes.
that you have to remember that everything starts in mind.
Well, that's the
everything
one
starts
tip.
there.
That's the one tip I was going to ask you. The one
Yep.
tip that you would leave us with today.
So start with the end in mind, go backwards, write the steps, and go towards that.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Great.
Thank you for
Would
inviting
you come
me
back again?
Of
if we
course,
invited
anytime you want.
Thank you,
Yeah,
because I'd
thank
love to learn more about what you're doing. And again, you can go to your website
Yeah.
and learn a little bit more about you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Alain.
Thanks, everyone.
Hi, I'm Mark Biot with InsonageMarketing.com. We support Ottawa Biz TV because we support Ottawa business.